Hey everybody, welcome back to coverage of Grand Prix Columbus, here from Ohio. We're watching round 14. My name is Marshall Sutcliffe. I am joined in the booth by Ben Schwartz. Hey, Ben.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. We are... Well, I haven't seen this deck yet. Okay,
so we got an interesting matchup.
We have a very interesting match. So what is going on the left hand, for
Lucas Siow?
Lucas Siow's deck.
Looks like he's playing a Rug Delver deck, or just a blue-red Delver deck. No, I see Tarmogoyf. Rug Delver.
Okay, so he's playing
Rug Delver.
Making a couple
interesting choices.
Okay, so I'll take a look at that list in a minute. This is one that we've seen a little bit from Gerard Fabiano. I play this deck, so I'm pretty familiar with it. But the other deck from Garrett, this one is one I haven't seen. Is this the deck that they call eggs?
I believe that's what they call it.
I think that's what this deck is called. Uh-oh, we have a very happy Rashad over there. He likes eggs. He had some for breakfast, in fact. 2 Disciple of the Vault. What is Drift of Phantasm?
It's 1 blue, transmute, and it's a 3-drop.
Oh, it's a 3-drop. Okay, so you can...
transmute that into Second Sunrise, which is a card he uses to go off. Hopefully we'll see Garrett go off. So
yeah, I would really like to see this. It is tough to explain, but basically this uses a lot of cycling artifacts, a lot of artifacts that have an effect on the game, like Pyrite Spellbomb, and then if he's able to, go off in a sense, then he can use Second Sunrise to buy them all back and keep repeating this process.
Second Sunrise, for those that don't know, is 1 white. Return all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments from your graveyard to play that went to the graveyard this turn. Each player returns to the battlefield all artifact, creature, enchantment, and land cards in his or her graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn.
So he can sack a whole bunch of stuff and get them all back in the same turn.
Sack cards like Chromatic Star or the Lotus Blooms that he's suspended. An explosive turn 1 for Garrett.
I mean, he's got a lot of action. He only has a 1-lander.
And sometimes that's all you need.
It looks like his deck actually only runs 15 lands.
Yeah. One of the updates to this deck that makes it a little better than when it was the previous incarnations of it is it's got Noxious Revival, a new card from New Phyrexia.
To put a card back from your graveyard on top of your library.
You can Second Sunrise, then use Noxious Revival to put Second Sunrise on top of your library, sack one of your Chromatic Stars, draw the Second Sunrise again.
And start looping.
Yep.
Interesting. Now, so like a card like the Lotus Bloom here, when that comes back into play, you just get to use it again, right? Like there's no suspend happening or nothing like that.
So, all
right, so one tick left on the Lotus Blooms, and there's a Pyrite Spellbomb, and he's going to play it.
Meanwhile, Lucas is trying to build up an army with Delver of Secrets and Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, now there's a card that I want to know if Lucas is playing in his sideboard. No, there's one. No, he doesn't run as many of that card as I do, which is...
He does have something spicy. Well, he's got a Graph Digger's Cage. This is a sideboarded game, so...
Oh, okay, so we might even see it. So, and Lucas is up a game here, and that doesn't surprise me terribly. Lucas's deck is able to put on a lot of pressure, and if Garrett's deck flounders at all, Lucas can just shut him out of the game. But it looks like Garrett is poised for a pretty big turn. I've never seen this deck go off, so I'm not really sure what to expect, but Lucas is certainly doing his part to keep the pressure on.
Lucas taps out by playing a Tarmogoyf, and Garrett has a turn to himself. Those 2 Lotus Blooms will come into play. Let's see what his deck does.
All right.
So step 1, sacrifice the Lotus Bloom. I assume for white mana.
Now you have to pick one color with Lotus Bloom, right?
Yep, it's just like Black Lotus.
Okay, so he makes triple white, sacrifices a Chromatic Star to make some other color,
and he's got a reshape that he drew. He's going to reshape the Chromatic Star into probably a Lotus Bloom. You can do that,
and it'll come in. Yep, you're right. Okay.
And he draws a card off Chromatic Star regardless, because that's how Chromatic Star is worded. It's a little different from Chromatic Star.
Is Reshape like Tinker?
It's kind of like Tinker, but you have to pay, I believe, the difference.
Never seen Reshape.
Exit, has to be the cost of the artifact. So he just paid blue, sacrifices Chromatic Star, and put Lotus Bloom in play because Lotus Bloom has no mana cost.
Okay, and because it has no mana cost at all, so he's actually gained quite a bit of mana just off that play, right?
Yep.
Plays the 1 remaining for a Chromatic Sphere. Crack this one. Make triple white, I guess. Cycle one of these things. These are all going to the graveyard this turn, right? So he's going to be able to do this again. Is that a Ghost Quarter?
Yeah, that allows him to start looping lands, going through his deck and getting more lands to generate more.
Oh, because they're going to come back anyway. This deck is crazy. What is going on here?
Second Sunrise, it's still in.
Rashad really is into this one.
The way this deck wins is by looping the
Pyrite
Spellbomb, I believe. We'll get to see
it has to do it
work.
10 times. I mean, in this case, 9, but...
He's got Conjurer's Bauble to be able to put
a good
Noxious Revival, or Noxious Revival, or Second Sunrise back into his deck. And continue looping. I believe it's how it works. It's an old deck. It was a deck that Olivier Roll played and extended a long time ago.
Oh, and when extended was big.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it played a bunch of the Invasion block eggs. That's where the name comes from. The Invasion block, there were cards similar to Chromatic Star, where you tapped 2 mana and got 2 mana of separate color and drew a card. And those were all egg cards.
Okay.
So that's where the name comes from. Yeah, one of them was Darkwater Egg, which 2 tap, add a blue and a black to your pool and draw a card.
Okay.
So he's going to reshape his Lotus Bloom into another Lotus Bloom just to get all 4 of them into his graveyard when he casts Second Sunrise to start generating more and more mana.
This deck is insane. I've never seen a deck like this. This is funny.
Lucas has probably not seen this deck either.
Yeah, he must be like
trying to figure out what's going on.
He's talking to him right now. You can see him jabbering at him.
We got
Maybe
chances.
he's just trying to get him to screw it up.
Like 3 times, and 2 of those were my losses.
Well, I mean,
what a surprise!
Garrett's at the top tables with his Aegis deck.
Yeah,
he has
so
to know what he's doing.
He definitely knows what he's doing with it.
So he's going to crack this, generate
also,
a bunch of mana.
he's been pretty crisp with how he's played this out as well. I see the Noxious Revival in his hand as well.
Yeah.
So Second Sunrise.
So all of these are coming back, including the lands.
Mind Break Trap.
Yep. 4 Lotus Blooms, it looks like.
I have to expect anything.
2 Chromatic Stars.
I'm a man who is prepared.
Chromatic Sphere, the Island,
shenanigans.
the Ghost Quarter, and the Pyrite Spellbomb.
Live by the sword, die by the
So
sword.
let's see a second loop of this. Each time he's drawing 3 cards, it looks like. Generating a lot of
2 blue
mana.
in the pool. Ghost Quarter is pretty.
So Garrett's going to add a blue to his mana pool with Island, and then go ahead and use Ghost Quarter to search up another land.
Get the second pretty island.
He's got 2 mana floating.
And 4 Lotuses in play.
From Kamigawa?
And 4 Lotuses in
It looks
play.
Asian too. Look like
Mirrodin?
Yeah, that's the. You see the Synod. Look at it.
I didn't play that, so I
letting him read the island.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I guess when your combo deck does the type of things that this combo deck does,
The people on the camera just have to.
you
be like,
entertain
what the fuck's
yourself.
going on?
And it looks like he's got
Make
a set of
blue and make a green.
Noxious Revivals in his hand, 3 of them.
Yeah, it does look like that.
Draws a reshape.
Blue and green thing again.
Off Chromatic Star, draws another Noxious Revival. Yeah, I think.
Are we safe in assuming that these Noxious Revivals each equal another rotation of this?
Yep.
Do the green thing.
Because he can Noxious Revival and then sacrifice his Spellbomb to put to draw the Second Sunrise he puts on top.
Yeah, or the Second Sunrise, right.
And each time he's generating a ton of mana because he's got 4
Empty
Lotuses.
Pool, draw a card.
I feel kind of bad for Lucas.
Yeah, I just have to sit here and
Just
take
have
it.
to watch it.
3 blue in the pool.
And the thing about this deck is that, I mean, I've never seen it. I don't know that Lucas has either. And
Yes.
Okay.
No clue how to play against
yeah,
it.
like, well, you can't take the guy's word for it, right? You can't just be like, well, you know, he's going off, but you know, what does this guy's deck do? I don't know.
I know what that does.
My assumption, you know, based on
It's supposed in your graveyard costs 1
previous
less, right?
experience with
Maybe I know what that does.
combo decks,
Yeah, okay.
For each one.
For each
shares.
one.
that-
Locket of Yesterdays
For
has
each
been
one.
cast.
So does that mean if you have like
Locket
3
of,
copies?
what does that do?
Correct. You'll
Locket of
reduce it
Yesterdays
by 50.
reduces each card you cast mana cost
Maybe
by the
Folly,
number
baby.
equal to the number of spells you play cost 1 less for each card with the same name as that
6
spell
white.
in your graveyard. And one of the
Your
cards
Lotus
that
Blooms cost a -3 now?
that Garrett's taking advantage of today is a new M13 card,
Oh, okay.
Faith's Reward, which does almost the
6 white
same
in
thing
Yes.
that Second Sunrise does.
Go
It
down
does.
3 white in the
What
pool.
It's
Faith's
an
Reward does
instant.
is,
That's
it costs 4 mana instead of 3. Return to the battlefield all permanents
Yep.
in your graveyard only that were put from the battlefield this turn. So now he's going to Second Sunrise again, costing maybe 1 less because of that locket.
So it's
Let's see what
3
other
white,
spicy
let's
things he
go,
can,
make 4
get
white.
out. I think the only one we haven't seen yet is there's a Sunbeam Spellbomb and a Conjurer's Bauble. Oh, and a Disciple of the Vault. That's what you pointed out earlier.
Contract.
So if he does get to get a disciple down,
Then,
then all of these sacrifice things just start adding up to damage.
yeah, he doesn't even need to start looping that that Pyrite Spellbomb. He can probably deal 20 damage, or 17 in this case, in 2 rotations of the loop.
Now, is time a consideration here?
Yeah, I mean, this... He just asked, Garrett just asked how much time was left in the round.
I mean, he seems to be moving very crisply along here. You know, he's being deliberate. You can tell he's clearly communicating what he's doing, but you know, his deck just seems to take a while to go off here.
Yeah.
So Chromatic Star going to get sacked. Still a couple noxious revivals.
He's using those dice to keep track of the amount of mana that he has in his mana pool. So when you guys see him change that, that's because he's using up a mana.
What turn was this?
Let's see what else
This turn
he's
3?
going to go for. Lucas probably not very happy, but maybe interested in what's going on.
I mean, this deck is really interesting.
Like Sarah Avenger me a bunch. Yeah.
How many rotations do we have to go?
Have I played land for a turn?
Yeah, you did. You played a Ghost Quarter.
Did
the Ghost Quarter
Garrett forget to
That's how you got into play.
use Noxious Revival? No, okay.
He has the Sunrise in his hand. I think he did that pretty early.
I'm going to add
a bajillion mana.
He's got
a bajillion mana.
2 and a white.
6 white, 6 blue.
Yeah.
So
looks like there's 8 minutes left on the clock. Sheldon Menery behind.
And this is game 2.
Yeah.
So like even if Garrett, so like if you're in Lucas's seat, yeah, this is interesting, and you do want to make sure that your opponent can go off here. But do you consider conceding so that you can try to get a game 3 done in a reasonable amount of time? I mean, if things go Lucas's way, like his deck is very fast. You know, he can definitely win a game in 8 minutes, no problem.
Yeah.
But I don't think he can do it in 3. You know, I mean,
white to the
things have
if
to
he
go
thinks
right.
this is going to take 2 minutes, then that's okay to not concede here, just to see what's going on, so he knows how to attack it better.
But if you're in Lucas's seat, you're keeping an eye on that clock, right? And you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to trust that this guy's going off. I mean, I hate to do that. I would much rather make my opponent actually do it, but taking a draw here might be detrimental to both of them.
Yeah, I believe they're likely both sitting on 2 losses. So
a draw is pretty risky business.
Yep.
White, 1 green.
Yep.
Now he's stacked up a bunch of mana here. It looks like he's got like 6 white, 5 blue, and 1 of another color, maybe green, so that he can play that Noxious Revival without, you know, losing any life or whatever. I don't know, but
continually drawing cards, looking for a Disciple probably.
Yeah. Maybe Lucas is just waiting to see that win condition. I mean,
he sees the Pirates
we know the Pirates
Spellbomb, no way to loop it.
Trying to see a win condition here.
You
know how to side
equal the number of Noxious Revivals and Second Sunrises you've got.
Yeah.
Okay.
But actually, I mean, he's got 4 Noxious Revival, 4... Yeah, so... Yeah. Lucas just looking for that win condition. Looking to have Garrett show him that win condition.
Okay.
Just show me how you win.
And I think that's fair.
At 12
Famous
white
words.
to the board.
Yeah.
So, Garrett continuing to go through the motions.
White. 16, 15, 14 white.
Yeah.
Cast second.
And I lost the... Okay. Putting Second Sunrise back on top. Drawing it.
Can you check the time again?
Using those dice.
You want to tell me your win condition?
Figure out what's going on. The mana is pulled 1.
I'm going to deal infinite
I know
damage.
some iterations of this deck were playing cards like
I'm going to
Grape
keep
Shot.
rebuying second sun.
Oh, really?
Or
Because
Brain
these are
Freeze,
all...
yeah.
So
these are all spells.
the ones when they come back in aren't
They aren't
individually
spells,
but he's cast a ton of spells this turn.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah, Lucas has seen enough. Not enough time on the clock.
Yeah.
They're going to go to a game 3 here. And Garrett Young, with his eggs deck, takes game 2 in round 14 here in Grand Prix Columbus.
Happens a lot.
They're getting a good look of his cheering squad.
We gotta get to a
Charles
game 3,
Gindy and Chris Anderson watching.
Yep.
Wow, that deck
How
is
much time
insane.
is on the clock?
Loop, 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 loop. So I wonder, you know, I don't know how game 1 went, but I'm curious to see, you know, how Lucas approaches this now.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, now that he's seen kind of what it does, he might have a better idea of critical things that he needs to counter or whatever.
Well, I saw in his hand he had an ancient
They
card.
should be hurrying up, though.
Yes,
They're kind of chatting around about the game and they're pile shuffling, and these guys need to be.
Vault is 100%
like,
legal.
They should really hurry up.
So is Ravager.
Not finishing this match would be
really bad for
a big bummer. Yeah.
Although it going to time is probably better for Garrett. Better for Garrett than for Lucas, because Garrett can go off in one turn. He only needs one turn.
Because all of these things happen in the course of one turn of magic.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Whereas Lucas needs, multiple turns to be able to attack with his guys and get damage in. So I suppose you could argue that time favors Garrett in this situation, but it's going to be tough for either player to finish a game really, really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I know that, the rug deck can get those starts where turn 1 Delver, transform it, turn 2 Tarmogoyf, and then turn 3 like Bolchu, and Goyf is like a 4/5, and you're hitting for 7, and they're already at 17 or lower, and I mean, it definitely has that gear, but it needs a specific draw to get it, and it's not like the deck isn't necessarily made just to try to get a draw like that, so it's not super consistent. It doesn't have step links.
I'm sorry, dude, who got second place at the last SCG. You're dumb.
Yeah, no step links. Delver still is one way to get some early damage in.
It definitely does a pretty good step links impersonation sometimes.
But he got the privilege of playing fish without force of will.
More shuffling over here.
He balanced himself.
That was an interesting thing to watch.
Yeah, I've never seen anything.
I'm sure
I've never seen a deck like that.
Most of Garrett's opponents had never seen anything like that after he continually just crushed them match after match.
I have to say, it definitely benefits him that, you could tell that he knows what he's doing with the deck, and that's a big deal, because that deck looked fairly complex in the sense that, you need to know each interaction. You needed to go, what was that, what was the double blue X? Reshape. You need to know exactly what you're going to go get with it. I'm sure it's the same thing every time in his deck, or pretty close, but, if this doesn't look like the type of deck that you just sort of pick up and play, like.
Yeah. It's a combo deck, and it's a tough combo deck at that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interaction going on.
Yeah.
It's not like Splinter Twin where you know what's
right.
It's really easy what your combo is. You play Deceiver Exarch, you play Splinter Twin, and you win.
The question is, does this resolve? Right, and then you've won.
Whereas this is, you have to know exactly how many cards you're going to draw, how close you are to comboing. I mean, one of the big decisions that sort of behind the scenes here is that Garrett has to know exactly when's the right time to go off.
Yeah.
Do I have enough to win here? Because there's some element of randomness with what you draw when you sacrifice the Chromatic Stars and Chromatic Spheres and the Spell Bombs.
For sure.
Makes it a little more similar to the Storm decks. Looks like Garrett from his sideboard is boarded in Silence, a way to combat Ancient Grudge or Mana Leak.
Yeah, now, unfortunately for Lucas, he does not have Ancient Grudge.
He has one Ancient Grudge in his sideboard.
Oh, he does have one.
Yeah, it was in his hand. That last game, the interesting thing is he tapped out for Tarmogoyf and left Ancient Grudge in his hand. Unable to cast. I don't know if it would have made a difference that game. Garrett had a lot
he was getting 2 Lotus Blooms that turn.
Yeah.
They're going to come back anyway.
Not. Okay, yeah. So Rashad makes an interesting point. They're all mana abilities, so Ancient Grudge kind of doesn't do very much. But Lucas boarded it in.
Well, and also putting stuff in his yard isn't super productive either.
Yeah.
What is, though, the way to attack this deck, okay, we see a sleight of hand from Lucas, so not the turn 1 play that he really wanted. But, this seems like the way to attack this deck is to hit the graveyard, right? I mean, that's what you want to do.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like Lucas has too much in the way of hitting the graveyard. So, let's take a look. There's a Serum Visions resolving.
And we have a suspended Lotus Bloom.
Grafdigger's Cage is a card that Lucas has in his sideboard, but it's not good. Creature cards can't enter the battlefield from graveyards or libraries. Just creature cards.
Oh, yeah, it's not good. Yeah, it doesn't do anything. Right.
You might think, Grafdigger's Cage, what does that do? Cards can't enter the battle. Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah, no.
Turn 2 Tarmogoyf for Lucas here, dropping down to 14 in order to cast that. Meanwhile, Lotus Bloom is ticking down on Garrett's side. But does it look like, Garrett's got a second land in the form of Scalding Tarn? He's going to fetch something out there. Maybe cast a couple Chromatic Stars or Chromatic Spheres.
That Lotus Bloom is like a little time bomb ticking, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Lucas, I don't know how much he knows exactly about this deck, but I mean, last turn when those two, or last game when those two Lotus Blooms came in, things got ugly very quickly, and I wonder if that's kind of the clock.
And Garrett cast one Chromatic Sphere and 1 star.
One of each. I wonder how good a card like Vendilion Click is against Garrett. Is there a specific piece that you need to take away? Like if he has a sudden sunrise and you peel that from him, like that's got to be kind of a big thing, right?
Yeah, probably just if they have 1 second sunrise and a bunch of Noxious Revivals, then obviously taking the second sunrise is really, really good. But if you've got 2 second sunrises, Vendilion Click doesn't do all that much. You get to take one of them, but it's likely that they're going to be able to find a second one off of the first one, depending on how many artifacts they have.
Okay, attack with my Tarmogoyf. It looks like it's a 1, 2, 3. I think it's a 3, 4. There's no artifacts in Garrett's yard yet. I don't think. We can't see his graveyard at all, though.
And maybe we can get that on screen so we can get a better. It's important in his deck.
It's pretty relevant. Now there is a artifact in there now, but this is
end of turn maybe.
End of turn.
Oh, this is during his upkeep before the Lotus Bloom happens. He's going to cast Silence to make sure that Lucas can't do anything.
This is on Garrett's
upkeep, I believe.
And he's going to try to protect his ability to go off here. And this is going to put, this puts Lucas in a really bad spot because what is he going to do?
Mana leak it?
Yeah. Then
he needs another mana leak. But he actually has just that. He's got a mana leak and a negate. So he's going to negate Silence and hold mana leak back up for anything that that Garrett could have. We're going to try to get that graveyard in the picture for you guys.
Yep,
Silence is going to get countered. Lotus Bloom is going to come in, and there's a mana leak for Lucas. And that's going to counter the Lotus Bloom. Wow.
So that's a big push in Lucas's direction here.
That's going to buy him a ton of time. Garrett still has the ability next turn to reshape that Chromatic Star into a Lotus Bloom, but he already wasted his sphere this turn. He's never going to be able to get that back from the graveyard.
Because it went this turn and he's not going to be...
Yeah, it's likely
it has to be this turn that those things went in. All right, so we've got Garrett moved over a little bit.
Serum Visions for Garrett. He'll draw another Serum Visions, look at Lotus Bloom and Misty Rainforest on the top of his deck.
Can you cast Lotus Bloom? Can you just hard cast it?
No.
It doesn't have a casting cost at all.
It has no casting cost.
It's like Visions?
Yes, it's like Ancestral Visions or Living End.
Gotcha.
Hypergenesis. It's interesting, Garrett left a Misty Rainforest on the top of his library, so next turn he's going to be able to reshape that Chromatic Star into a Lotus Bloom, crack the Misty Rainforest, and cast a second Sunrise type card. I believe he's got a Faith's Reward in his hand to be able to get back that Misty Rainforest.
Okay.
To get another land, to generate another mana.
Looks like he's Serum Visioning to lead things off here.
So I can't quite get a look at what he's
there's definitely a
scrying.
Ghost Quarter there, but I don't know what the other card was. He's not running...
if he's going to shuffle his library anyway with Misty Rainforest, it doesn't matter.
It's not relevant.
So Garrett going down to 9 here by cracking Misty Rainforest. He's going to search for an island and cast Reshape on his Chromatic Star. He does actually have to shuffle here because Chromatic Star will draw him a card before the Lotus Bloom comes into play, before Reshape resolves.
Okay.
Reshapes, as part of its cost, is sacrifice an artifact.
Okay. And Chromatic Star only cares that it's going to the graveyard to draw a card. It doesn't matter that you paid the cost or anything like that.
That's the difference between Chromatic Star and Chromatic Sphere. Chromatic Sphere forces you to actually use the ability to draw a card. Chromatic Star just has, when this goes to the graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card.
Okay.
So yeah, Reshape here is going to draw him a card and search out a Lotus Bloom. There's that Lotus Bloom for Garrett. I have to imagine that Garrett's got a second Sunrise. He doesn't have enough mana to cast. I don't think he's got a mana floating, right? So he doesn't have enough mana to cast the Faith's Reward. And this is a really small second Sunrise. At that, yep, he's got a second Sunrise. He's got 2, actually. Crack that for white. Second Sunrise. How does that sound? Ooh,
that
Deprive
like
off the top from
down.
Lucas.
Wow. What a beating. Totally hard countered it. Now, that also used up Lotus Bloom, so he doesn't have that again to do it again. He's got triple blue.
And meanwhile, Lucas is just beating down with Tarmogoyf, which is now a 5-6.
Yeah, because of the artifact in there.
Garrett needs to win this turn. He's only at 5 life, or come up with an answer to that Tarmogoyf.
That's not going to do it.
Conjurer's Bauble. What can it draw into? A reshape won't do it. He needs like a trash for treasure. You know what that card does? Sacrifice an artifact, return an artifact from your graveyard to play.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And he can get back the bloom, and then he can, even then.
Well, he could cast Second Sunrise and start trying to loop.
Do a couple of things, yeah.
And a turn off Crystal Bauble.
But
Frozen Grip
on Conjurer's Bauble.
Split Second says you can't even react to this, and that ought to do it. Bunch of white cards in hand for Garrett, and isn't it 5? Oh, they have him going to 1.
Okay.
Oh, there's no creatures in the yard? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I think that's it. Lotus Bloom off the top for Garrett, and that's it.
And
Lucas Siow wins the match 2-1 here in the penultimate round of Grand Prix Columbus, defeating the Eggs player Garrett Young. There you get a good look at Siow, high-fiving his Canadian friends.
Very happy. Yep, Team Mana Deprived back there.
Wow, that was an exciting match to watch.
That was. You know, considering the fact that Garrett's deck is relatively non-interactive, you know, there was a lot of tension on can Lucas keep him off of what he's trying to do here, and he